Can you tell me why people go to such lengths to hide their real selves? Or why I always behave very differently when I'm in the company of others? Why do people have so little trust in one another?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Never again can we afford to live in the narrow, provincial, outside agitator idea. Anyone who lives inside the United States can never be considered an outsider anywhere within its bounds.
I don't believe the war is simply the work of politicians and capitalists. Oh no, the common man is every bit as guilty.
Birmingham is probably the most thoroughly segregated city in the United States. Its ugly record of brutality is widely known. Negroes have experienced grossly unjust treatments in the courts. There have been more unsolved bombings in Negro homes and churches in Birmingham than in any other city in the nation.
As you can no doubt imagine, we often say in despair, what is the point of the war? Why, oh why, can't people live together peacefully? Why all this destruction? The question is understandable, but up till now, no one has come up with a satisfactory answer.
We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Frankly, I have yet to engage in a direct action campaign that was well-timed in view of those who have not suffered unduly from the disease of segregation. For years now, I have heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait is almost meant never.
I see the 8 of us in the annex as if we were a patch of blue sky, surrounded by black, menacing clouds. The perfectly round spot on which we're standing is still safe, but the clouds are moving in on us, and the ring between us and the approaching danger is being pulled tighter and tighter. We're surrounded by darkness and danger, and in our desperate search for a way out, we keep bumping into each other.
We have waited for over 340 years for our constitutional and God-given rights. The nations of Asia and Africa are moving with jet-like speed toward gaining political independence, but we stiff creep at horse and buggy pace toward gaining a cup of coffee at the lunch counter.
Have you heard the term hostages? It's the latest punishment for saboteurs. It's the most horrible thing you can imagine. Leading citizens, innocent people, are taken prisoner to await their execution. If the Gestapo can't find the saboteur, they simply grab 5 hostages and line them up against the wall.
How does one determine whether a law is just or unjust? A just law is a man-made code that squares with the moral law or the law of God. An unjust law is a code that is out of harmony with the moral law.
In the evenings, when it's dark, I often see long lines of good, innocent people walking on and on, ordered about by a handful of men who bully and beat them until they nearly drop. No one is spared. The sick, the elderly, children, babies, pregnant women, all are marched to their death.
We must use time creatively, for in the knowledge that time is always ripe to do what is right. Now is the time to make real the promise of democracy and transform our pending national elegy into a creative psalm of brotherhood. Now is the time to lift our national policy from the quicksand of racial injustice to the solid rock of human dignity.
The reason for the hatred is understandable, maybe even human, but that doesn't make it right. According to the Christians, the Jews are blabbing their secrets to the Germans, denouncing their helpers and causing them to suffer the dreadful fate and punishments that have already been meted out to so many. All of this is true. But, as with everything, they should look at the matter from both sides. Would Christians act any differently if they were in our place? Could anyone, regardless of whether they're Jews or Christians, remain silent in the face of German pressure? Everyone knows it's practically impossible, so why do they ask the impossible of the Jews?
If this nonviolent philosophy had not emerged, By now, many streets of the South, I am convinced, be flowing with blood. And I am further convinced that if our white brothers and sisters dismiss us as rabble-rousers and outside agitators, those of us who employ nonviolent direct action, and if they refuse to support our nonviolent efforts, millions of Negroes will, out of frustration and despair, seek solace and security and in black nationalist ideologies.
It's being said in underground circles that the German Jews who emigrated to Holland before the war and have been sent to Poland shouldn't be allowed to return here. They were granted the right to asylum in Holland, but once Hitler is gone, they should go back to Germany. When you hear that, you begin to wonder why we're fighting this long and difficult war. We're always being told that we're fighting for freedom, truth, and justice. The war isn't even over, and already there's dissension, and Jews are being treated as lesser beings.
I've almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride towards freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted towards order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal that you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action.
We're all alive, but we don't know why or what for. We're all searching for happiness. We're all leading lives that are different and yet the same. We three have been raised in good families. We have the opportunity to get an education and make something of ourselves. We have many reasons to hope for great happiness. But we have to earn it. And that's something that you can't achieve by taking the easy way out.
In deep disappointment, I have wept over the laxity of the church. But be assured that my tears have been tears of love. There can be no deep disappointment where there is not deep love. Yes, I love the church. How could I not otherwise? I am in the rather unique position being the son, the grandson, and the great-grandson of preachers. Yes, I see the church as the body of Christ, but oh, how we have blemished and scarred that body through social neglect and through fear of being nonconformists.
Who can assure us that this war, which has caused us nothing but pain and sorrow, will then be over, and that nothing will have happened to us or our helpers before that time? No one. And that's why each and every day is filled with tension. Expectation and hope generate tension, as does fear.
We should never forget that everything Adolf Hitler did in Germany was legal, and everything the Hungarian freedom fighters did in Hungary was illegal. It was illegal to aid and comfort a Jew in Hitler's Germany. Even so, I am sure that had I lived in Germany at that time, I would have aided and comforted my Jewish brothers.
We must put our feelings aside. We must be brave and strong, bear discomfort without complaint, do whatever is in our power, and trust in God. One day this terrible war will be over. The time will come when we'll be people again and not just Jews. The weak shall fall, but the strong shall survive and not be defeated.
I hope this letter finds you strong in the faith. I also hope that circumstances will soon make it possible for me to meet each and every one of you, not as an integrationist or a civil rights leader, but as a fellow clergyman and a Christian brother. Let us all hope that the dark clouds of racial prejudice will soon pass away and the deep fog of misunderstanding will be lifted from our fear-drenched communities. And in some not too distant tomorrow, the radiant stars of love and brotherhood will shine all over our great nation with all their scintillating beauty. Yours in the cause of peace and brotherhood, Martin Luther King, Jr.
It is utterly impossible for me to build my life on a foundation of chaos, suffering, and death. I see the world being slowly transformed into a wilderness. I hear the approaching thunder that will one day destroy us too. I feel the suffering of millions. And yet, when I look up at the sky, I somehow feel that everything will change for the better, that this cruelty too will end, that peace and tranquility will return once more. In the meantime, I must hold on to my ideals. Perhaps the day will come when I will be able to realize them. Yours, Anne Frank.